Hello everyone, Assalamu alaikum. Today we will be continuing about Avicenna Ibn Sina, and this is part 2, Central Asian Scientists. We talked about Avicenna and his life in our first video, and I hope you remember that Ibn Sina was not only a physician but a philosopher who was the most systematic and influential of the Islamic philosopher. And in this video I'll be talking a lot about his work, contribution, and his theories. I would like to start with this saying: Ruh shamchiroqqa, bilim ana shu shamchiroqdan taralayotgan yog'duga. Allohning zakosi moyga o'xshaydi. Shamchiroq yonishdan to'xtamas ekan, sen tiriksan. Agar u o'chsa, sen halok bo'lasan. He is a very interesting intellectual person who actually, in this picture, and you can see he is holding a candle, and in this saying, in Uzbek saying, he is doing a comparison. Ruh is like a soul, and shamchiroq like a candle. And what he's saying is your soul like a candle, and your knowledge like light in that candle. So basically, he is more about the knowledge. He's talking about action. He's talking about acting mind, how we all can, looking like the light is on, how we can also produce our knowledge. So as you can see here, I'm not going to read all the books, but Ibn Sina has written more than 450 works, of which about 240 in Arabic have reached us today. And that's why you probably can see lots of movies and videos about Ali Ibn Sina, although he wasn't an Arabic person. He used Arabic language at that time. And one of his famous books is Al-Qanun fi al-Tib, the Canon of Medicine. And I'll show you in a little bit the video that I found very interesting.
Looking back at medieval Islamic medicine with modern scientific eyes is frustrating. They take as true many things we know to be nonsense. But on the other hand, their desire to deal with this vast subject logically and systematically is admirable, and truly marks a break with the past. One Islamic scholar, more than any other, embodies the synthesis of religion, faith, and reason. His name was Ibn Sina, or Avicenna as he's known in the West. He was a polymath who clearly thrived in intellectual and courtly circles. In 1025, he completed this, Al-Qanun fil Tib, or the Canon of Medicine. In it, Ibn Sina collated and expanded on all that had gone before him, medical ideas from Greece to India, and turned them into a single work. So how would you place this book in a historical context?
Oh, it's hugely important. I mean, there are a few books which are as important as the canon, because what this encyclopedia does, it kind of, sweeps away everything else. It becomes a textbook. It supersedes a lot of other texts, and people even complain that, it's so good, it's so tightly organized, it's so easily accessible that people forget to read the Greek sources in Arabic translations. This whole first book, this is the first book, contains what we call the kulliyat, the general principles. So it's all about how the human body works, how diseases work in general. The second book contains diseases of what we sometimes call from tip to toe, like from tip to toe. So he starts with the diseases of the head, and then he moves down, like the eyes, the ears, the nose, the mouth, and he normally they end up at the sexual organs, you see.
At first sight, the sheer ambition of the 3 volumes is hugely impressive. Here's an attempt at diagnosis and cure for diseases as diverse as depression, meningitis, and smallpox. And there's even detailed chapters on more common problems.
So, for instance, here you have headaches.
So different kinds of headaches.
في العلاج الصداع الحادث عن الروائح الطيبة. So headaches caused by pleasant, fragrant smells.
And then he's also got الحادث من الخمار, so hangovers.
Different kinds of. You can get headache from sex.
Is that right?
Well, I mean, Hasn't happened to me yet, but I mean, let's see. So, the treatment of headache caused by sex. ويجب لمن يعتريه ذلك عقب الجماع وبامتلاء أن يبدأ بالفast. So if somebody has or is befallen by, suffers from a headache after sex, and he also has a repletion, so he has too many superfluities or something like that, so يجب أن يبدأ بالفast. One has to first resort to venesection or bloodletting. ثم بالإسهال, and then you should use purging. In وجب كل واحد منهما. For both of them, I mean, like bloodletting and purging are necessary.
A lot of the stuff in here sounds like nonsense, of course, because this is not modern medicine.
No, it's not.
So how long was this taken seriously?
Well, the fundamental ideas contained here about how the body works, I mean, they haven't changed until the early 19th century. I mean, there was progress, obviously, on certain levels, but the essence was the same. And then came the big break with the discovery of bacteria and viruses and things like that. And from the second half of the 19th century onwards, medicine was totally revolutionized.
Ibn Sina's canon of medicine is a landmark in the history of the subject. Although much of the medical science it espouses we know now to be terribly misguided, its value lies in accumulating the best knowledge in the world at the time into one accessible, organized text. The canon would give future generations something to rewrite.
I thought this video by Attar Foundation is really helpful and provided lots of information. Avicenna's contribution, I would like to mention a couple of things because it's important to notice that not only Avicenna was a physician or talked about medicine, he also dedicated his life in the study of literary studies, philology, philosophy, like astrology and astronomy. And most of his works have been translated and published in many European and Asian languages. I was impressed that even there is a name that is commemorated in the names of tropical plant to Avicenna. I found Hikmatlar, which is translated as Proverbs by Ali Ibn Sina. I got it from Khurshid Davran's webpage, and if you're interested, if you'd like to read more in English, you can go, and I provided the link. You can read more about it. But there are two interesting sayings or proverbs that really sticks to me, and I would like to read it for you. Ilm narsalarni inson aqli yordami bilan o'rganishlikdir. So he talks about knowledge, and we use our intellect to know or to learn about knowledge. We use our intellect to be knowledgeable about something. The second one is very important, I think, is meaningful. Haqiqatni ochinglar, to'g'ri yo'ldan yuringlar. Bir-biringizdan ilm o'rganib, kamol topishingiz uchun dil pardasini ochib tashlanglar. He says that we should be on the right path, we should be talking only the truth, and we should learn from each other, because no one is perfect, and we all learn from each other, and we should be open, our heart should be open to teach or to share something. Contribution in research and theory. Since I'm a graduate student and I'm also interested in theory, I decided to provide some information for those of you who would like to read more or use Ali Ibn Sina's theory. As you can see, I will provide you later the websites. Here, he developed the theory of emanative theory that represents, Aristotle ideas and synthesis of Islamic ideas as well. He not only talked about, for example, earthquakes, but also talked about the formation of mountains, and you can find lots of interesting ideas by Avicenna. For example, one of the essential, or I would just say critical aspect of Avicenna's philosophy was logic. His logical works followed late Neoplatonism. His views on logic represent a significant metaphysics approach, and when I was reading Avicenna's work, I came across the abstract concept that's maqulat taniya. He talked about existence and essence, and also Ali Ibn Sina talked about acting mind, which he described as an angel. And if you would like to read more about that, I provided here a website. Please use it and you can find more information. I just kind of tried to give you an overview. Also, I found very interesting information about ontology. Avicenna followed Farabi's ideas, and he, according to this website and Stanford website, Ibn Sina rejected creation, which is ex nihilo from Latin, which means creation out of nothing. So basically, what he's saying that God exists, and he was the author who talked about or provided the proof for the existence of God. Ibn Sina made distinction even between the essence and existence, the fact that something exists and what it is. So you also can find more information about it on Stanford webpage. So here I found very interesting video that will explain about what is the self by Ali Ibn Sina.
ABDHEEN. What is the self? According to Avicenna. Avicenna wrote his famous floating man thought experiment to demonstrate human self-awareness and the substantiality and immateriality of the soul. Avicenna believed his floating man thought experiment demonstrated that the soul is a substance, and claimed humans cannot doubt their own consciousness, even in a situation that prevents all sensory data input. The thought experiment told its readers to imagine themselves created all at once while suspended in the air, isolated from all sensations, which includes no sensory contact with even their own bodies. He argued that, in this scenario, one would still have self-consciousness, because it is conceivable that a person, suspended in air while cut off from sense experience, would still be capable of determining his own existence. The thought experiment points to the conclusions that the soul is a perfection, independent of the body, and an immaterial substance. The conceivability of this floating man indicates that the soul is perceived intellectually, which entails the soul's separateness from the body. Avicenna referred to the living human intelligence, particularly the active intellect, which he believed to be the hypostasis by which God communicates truth to the human mind and imparts order and intelligibility to nature. However, Avicenna posited the brain as the place where reason interacts with sensation. Sensation prepares the soul to receive rational concepts from the universal agent intellect. The first knowledge of the floating person would be I am, affirming his or her essence. That essence could not be the body, obviously, as the floating person has no sensation. Thus, the knowledge that I am is the core of a human being. The soul exists and is self-aware. Avicenna thus concluded that the idea of the self is not logically dependent on any physical thing, and that the soul should not be seen in relative terms, but as a primary given, a substance. The body is unnecessary in relation to it. The soul is its perfection in itself. The soul is an immaterial substance. Subscribe to ABDHEEN's YouTube channel for more
So I thought that would be interesting to listen and also learn about, because he talked and he wrote a lot about soul and knowledge and existence. So if you're really interested, I would really recommend going and reading that webpage that I here cited. Avicenna's main subject was existence when we talked about in metaphysics. So here is the book that you can take a look, and then here's the author. You may find it online. So he also talked about epistemology. So the theory of knowledge was very, very crucial to Avicenna. And he explains that when we're born without built-in mental content, our intellect at birth is like tabula rasa, and it's a well-known expression in Latin, right? So we don't process data until we educate ourselves or we come to know something, right? We come to know something through familiarity with objects in the world. So we develop it through logical argument that applies deductive reasoning, for example, to come to a conclusion based on two or more propositions that are asserted to be true. So as you can see, it's a lot of philosophy, a lot of ideas, a lot of theory that he's using and to explain about the soul, about intellect, about knowledge. And it's very interesting to read about all his work. I also kind of like try to bring up here theoretical philosophy. If you're interested, I provided the link here for Stanford Encyclopedia of Philosophy. So if you